All right, here we go. Audio test one, two, three. We're good. We're live. Right on. So we're about 3 minutes away from the open here on MNQ NASDAQ futures. My thoughts. I don't have. I'm not clear on what's going to happen right now. I've already taken a trade. We can see up here wherever it is. I longed down in here when we swept all of these lows. I went in on this breaker. I didn't go in on the IFVG. Instead, I wanted to wait for the breaker, and I wanted to, because it was kind of slowing down here. I wanted to see a nice impulsive move, so I entered on this candle here, and then I exited. I think right at either these equal highs or these highs for 2.5R. So it was a nice quick trade this morning, which we swept a bunch of liquidity down here, and made sense to go back up, even though I'm more bearish on the day. Um, we look at the 1 hour chart here, and we obviously have bearish order flow. We've swept lows down in here, but the 4 hour to me is bearish. Really, everything's been rebalanced up in here. This fair value gap was balanced too. I don't feel like there's a major level down in here that I would consider to be like the low. And when we look at the daily here and this structure here on NQ, you know, it's coming back down into discount, but we have these levels that have been these inefficiencies that have already been used a bunch. So for me, I'm still leaning more bearish. We've already swept the previous day low, and maybe that's all this candle wants to do for today. But my draw on liquidity is ultimately lower. Um, looking here at the weekly chart, we're staying below so far the previous week's equilibrium. Um, and it's just looking heavy to me. So leaning more towards a bearish bias, but that doesn't really leave me anything I can do here at 9:30, which we got the open right now. So let's go back over this chart. And here we go in the 9:30 open, blue dotted line. So these are 15-minute gaps that I have on the chart. They're about the only inefficiencies that I see that we have locally. So here's a little bit of an inversion right here. Um, so yeah, I'm more bearish, but I don't want to short right now. I want to see more of what it does. So we have look at YM just blasting off. We have a large opening range gap. We swept London lows. London high is still intact. All right, so here's a 1 minute breaker, an inversion. I'm going to take these 15-minute levels off real quick and just put on the higher time frame. And I want to put the higher time frame on because it's just such a CF in this zone. There's so much resistance here on NQ. So I'm kind of interested in seeing price get out of this zone. Um, Otherwise, I could just potentially see it chopping. We did have a large overnight expansion, so I'm keeping that in mind here. Take this standard deviations off. We already hit 2.5 of that. I mean, I guess it's helpful for 4, but so when 9:30 does this, it just makes this massive candle like this breaker. Often can buy that, but for me, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not clear on what it's going to do. If I was clear on what it was going to do, I might do something like that. Kind of looking more over on the higher time frames. We can see the 1 hour is in this consolidation pattern. This 1 hour for value gap has been holding resistance so far. So I'm bearish at the moment. You know, I was bullish right down after we swept these lows, but I'm not bullish right here. Looking at ES, we can see ES is flipping this fair value gap once, twice, three, four times on ES. Same thing with YM. Look how many times it's inverted this gap. So it's in a weird zone. This 1 hour candle's giving a nice push. So here we go. Look at this order block right here on top of this. Right there. This candle closing above that candle. That would have been a nice continuation setup. But they're not in sync at the moment. Looks like YM's coming down. ES is as strong as NQ. So here's 4.5 standard deviations of that manipulation breaker down here. Um, wow, look at that go. Swept London high. We're coming up to previous day equilibrium and a weekly quadrant. I do think we have a new week opening gap right there too. All right, so at this point, the 1 hour gap has been fully balanced. It's this big blue gap right here. Same thing with the opening range gap. Hmm. So with 930 here, we had more of a one-stage delivery where we can see prices pretty much just making these minor lower lows. Um, there is technically a reversal here, a stop hunt and a reversal, um, but not a two-stage delivery like this where the trend changes, at least on the 1 minute chart here. So I take this as kind of a continuation of this trend here, which means maybe 950 is going to have more of the reversal. So we shall see. But I'm also not sure I'm stoked on a reversal. All right, so we're coming into a 4-hour gap here. So we have all these higher time frame levels right now. I mean, this is a pretty strong candle. 20 minutes left to close, though. I will see what it does. But all these higher time frame levels down in there providing some form of support. We have a 1 hour gap right here. Same thing right there. In case we're going up there. Which I would love there for this to change trend. Um, we've been kind of grinding down for a few weeks now. Since January, yeah, last January basically. And even then, we've been caught in a range since like November. So I would love it if the trend changed. I do better in bullish conditions. All right. I'm going to go in on this 2-minute inversion here. SMT up at these highs. We've tapped into some levels. I'm going to go break even on this pretty quickly, because if it doesn't sink, it's going to snap back up and get me. So, all right, got messages going on over there. Heart rate's climbing, trying to figure out what I want to do. I feel like it's a little early to go break even on this one. So I'm kind of watching this candle here. Okay. So it's sinking. It's going to either snap back against at me, go down to the 1-minute chart even. And we're coming into the whole support zone. So I think in this instance, it makes sense to go break even. All these different levels here. I might get smacked out on this one, but I'm not as confident as I would like to be on it. All right, break even. I see YM kind of flipping around here. All right, so bit of a bummer. Looks like it does want to sink, and it just came back to the entry. Um, just kind of remembering I came up with a new rule, and I didn't do it. My rule was if it doesn't retest, go 50% break even to allow for it to retest. So kind of bummed about that. We'll see what it does. It might come back down in here. Hmm. I'm bummed I didn't follow my rule. I even printed it out. It's right here on top. My, my new break even rules. I printed it out and I have it here to read. 1R and no retest, go 50% break even. But I'm not going to do anything. I want to sit with this. I want to see what happens and let it sink in. You know, if I since I did break my new rule, to see the consequence of that. So I'm going to let this trade play out, um, and I'm going to go grab my breakfast real quick. Oh yeah, there's my punishment. Look at that. Beautiful trade. So we had 2 minute IFVG. We had SMT. We had a higher time frame level. We had higher time frame liquidity. 4 hour. 4 hour. It was high probability targets is equal highs and lows, and with bias. 940. We had a 5 and a 15-minute C2 candle, and we had assets in sync. Cool, cool, cool. There's the details on that trade. Um, One break even early. Doesn't really matter. That's an old session low. So, okay. So what now? Zoom out. Get off the 1 minute chart. Hmm. So this is against order flow. It makes sense from a narrative perspective down in these higher time frame levels to get some kind of reaction or bounce. Might be a little slow on this one here. A little IFVG breaker. It's not very big. I also don't think it's time for a reversal. Um, Over here is what I was looking at. Look at that close, dang. So I was kind of interested if it closed as an order block above here, but it's just way too far away now. Notice the last few days on NQ, I feel like you can do about anything, and you're gonna at least get a break-even trade, if not a winner. So I'm more bearish. I'd really like a continuation short, I think, um, more than a long. And I was just a couple minutes too slow on that. That I had another couple minutes to finish scoping it out, I might have, I probably possibly would have entered on that candle just for a retracement play, mean reversion play. We did close above that little 2-minute gap. So we're making some, no, we're not. No, we're not. No, we are. We are. Some SMT up in here. Here is an order block. Here's an inversion there, or it could be an inversion, inverted inversion. Just kind of sizing up, trying to think if this, you know, short continuation play is something I want to take, or if it's done its business. We do have a weekly fair value gap down here. Oh, I must already have that on the chart. I see that was a thought that was a daily gap. What rectangle that is. I don't know if I like a continuation play off that much of an expansion. Um, I kind of would have anticipated more of a consolidation. So that makes me feel like taking a short in discount here already. Like if this was up here and I still had local drawn liquidities, maybe so. But I'm not liking that idea. Oh, Brett's too slow today. I've been up since 4 in the morning my time, which means what time is it now? 10:10 New York time. Um, we had this massive winter storm roll in and just winds blowing and sleet pelting the house and um pretty wild gusts. I probably at least 45-mile-an-hour gusts. And so I've been up for quite a while and I'm a little slow. That's okay. So because 930 macro reversed, I'm expecting the 950 macro to be a continuation. So I'm not going to take a short all the way down in here, but we can watch and see what happens. It's building up trend line liquidity right here locally. Um, so just curious. I'm just going to tape read. Oh dang! I'll probably do like right there. So already off sides. So there, the intuition, gut, and experience might be paying off. I guess it didn't close yet, but we'll see. For me, I'm expecting some chop. And if it starts chopping, then I'll probably call it a session and come back for lunch macros and early PM. Would have given a full 3R. wonder if we have any monthly levels. I almost never look at the monthly chart. We'll do it. I'm gonna do it on a different screen. Not really. Although it's interesting looking at the monthly here. I guess I didn't really realize this, but we had the all-time high October 1st and ultimately just bearish since. So, here's a bearish candle, compression candle, bearish candle. And then on the monthly, like here's some gaps that have yet to be balanced. So like here, look, bearish, 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 coming back down to balance these gaps right there. So could be bearish for a while. All right, so back on the daily chart. Really nothing down here. There is this inversion, one tap, no tap. I don't think that level's been used so much that I'm not really interested in that. One-hour chart, nothing here. 15-minute chart, a little convoluted, I know, but like to keep these annotations sometimes so I can come, especially in the 15-minute chart, I can come back and look at my expectations. So really today I called all of these. And see this candle's coming up. That's part of the reason why I wasn't interested in that short very much. The continuation short, it was just too far away, too deep into discount. We don't need this one here anymore. Mhm. Even that long, it wanted to come super deep back down in a discount. I would have been stopped out on that long. So it came for this trend line liquidity right here. A little bit of a consolidation. Now I might be a little bit more interested in that short if it manipulates up into here, takes some of this liquidity, and then comes back down. We shall see. This is a deep enough dive that I'm just going to kind of let it do its thing. If we flip this midnight open again, then I think think that needs to be done for the day, or at least for a little while. Be right back. Alrighty, so it closed below this first gap right there. We have any SMT? No SMT. I can see. So that's saying there's an SMT between, there is on that. So Hmm. It looks like it's going to close below. Oh, no. Dang, last second. Last second, it did not close below there. There's a 1 minute gap. Just don't like that we've already taken the previous 4 hour low. I feel like it could just consolidate. Or, well, yeah. Gosh, that 15 minute is so bearish. 1 hour looks super bearish. It all looks so bearish. So even this candle, look at that, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's not closing below that gap. So losing momentum. Bullish SMT. Oh, let's see. Looking good for a minute. Now I'm not so sure. Look at that strong bullish response on that candle. Spent too much time playing around here. Um, so I'm not interested if it closes below here. Looks like this candle might, but I'm not into it. All right, so let's see, what can we think about here? The New York AM session trend, because now we are an hour into the session. Where is it? So what we have so far is we have this. So what I consider the New York Open, which is just a division of time for me. It's from 9:30 till 10:30, and there is a downtrend here. Um, 56% of the time, the rest of New York follows this opening range, opening trend, whatever you want to call it. I know ICT uses a 30 minutes. I've been looking at it from the 1 hour perspective, kind of to divide my AM session into two halves. And then I look at 10:30 till about 11:30, 12. So that's bearish, supports the short idea. And look at that short playing out without me. What was that? I was wanting to turn that off. Which that's okay. I do think that it was a lower probability short, in my opinion. All right, so we've swept external liquidity. There hasn't been a retest of this inversion, but given that we've swept liquidity, for sure reducing my risk if I was in this trade. And I would just want to see it come back down. So this consequent encroachment of this fair value gap, um, at a minimum, ideally rebalance this whole fair value gap. But I'm not in it. It's cool. Like I'm okay because I love seeing it when I call the trades. I don't like it when I don't follow my rules, like I did up here, and I went break even too early. Like that's a bummer. So coming back for a retest here. I don't have it in my rules, but I probably would have been break even after sweeping that liquidity because that's a significant low it swept. the nearest 4 hour, 1 hour candles. All right, so what else can we look at here? The 1020 has been lately has been a continuation macro, and we did see a local reversal, but ultimately it was a continuation of the AM trend. However, 1050 can tend to be more likely a reversal macro. So let's see where this rest of this macro delivers. And it's coming for this year, I'm sure. This is so it would have been break even on that little guy. I was going to point out like the inversions, gaps, like this. When there's two of them like this, I like the one that's in this case in premium, because you can see that when you take the gap in discount, which is sometimes why I don't like combining them. Um, you can see here, you just like would have marked it in somewhere on the retrace of this candle, stop above. You still could have got 2R out of that. So we'll see what it does anyways here. Kind of, it's just consolidating a little bit. It doesn't, kind of like a distribution leg of consolidation, distribution, consolidation. Ooh, pardon me. And then at this point, like below here, we're getting into just some real higher, real high time frame stuff. Um, this is a weekly fair value gap. Here's a daily volume imbalance. I guess we have a daily rejection block down in here too, so we can add that on, I guess. This one too. I feel like this part of the gap is also important. Or actually, it has been this candle. This candle did balance that part of the gap out. And we do have a weekly volume imbalance way down here too. We're not going there today. we'll be lucky, I think, if we see the bottom of this weekly candle today. The other downside to that short was you were going right into some levels, like at least when I was shorting up in here, there was a bit of a middle ground between these resistance zones and then these support levels where price could get away for a little bit before it ran into some resistance. It's a 15-minute gap. Let's see here. There's just not much below other than those two levels. So it really, like, depending on what it wants to do, it could just sink. Because whereas up here you see all this convoluted drawing mess, that's a lot of resistance. So here we're at the 1/3 of the average daily range. Right here on the 15-minute chart, 1/3 ADR. We can see this is the average daily range, comes down to 24,195. Which I'm curious to see what that is. 24,195. 24. That's below this low. So according to the average daily range, we could come back down to this low and this weekly low. Let's see. 24. Yeah, that's that daily low I was eyeballing my drawn liquidity. I don't have anything I can do from a short perspective. So I think that's going to be it for me. There's the possibility of a long setup, maybe a little bit later down here, but it's going to be probably a little while. I'm also not stoked about the idea of long in this. Yeah, I'm not stoked. So I've had enough fun. I'll probably I'm going to call it a day here at least for now. I'll come back. I'll be looking at the charts. I'm just not seeing the likelihood of anything uh, near term, so might as well not just sit here and stare at the charts by myself. So take a break. Come back a little bit later.